We used to have a policy we didn't negotiate with terrorists, but at the same time, we need to do everything we can to ensure that no American is wrongfully imprisoned in a foreign country. So it's great news they're back, but we have a lot of questions, and hopefully the United States didn't give away something that we'll regret later on.
Yeah, we're still working to confirm all the details of this, and it's been reported this was a quiet negotiation. I'm just curious, Congressman, were you hearing anything about this before perhaps other journalists were? Did you just find out this morning as well?
I just found out this morning, and most of my colleagues that I've communicated with this morning had no idea. I don't fault that. I think that when you elect a president, administration, he puts his on Secretary of State and people in, I think sometimes it's best to have quiet negotiations and leave the media out of it. But obviously, we expect transparency with respect to the terms of the deal. I applaud the fact that we got these Americans home, but we need to now know the terms of the deal, and hopefully it was a deal that won't jeopardize future Americans as they travel abroad.
Yeah, great point. And again, as we pointed out, we don't know who might have been swapped, right, for Russia, returning to Russia, perhaps coming from U.S. custody. But just your interpretation of what this could mean for Russia-U.S. relations, also the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, do you anticipate this to have any impact on that?
Well, we don't know yet. I think it's too soon to tell. Obviously, you asked me my opinion. I'm against sending future tax dollars to Ukraine. I don't think Ukraine spent our tax dollars in a transparent manner. In fact, we have no idea where a lot of the money that Americans have sent to Ukraine is going. We need to do everything we can from a policy standpoint in Washington to try to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And I believe that's something that if Donald Trump's elected, I believe that's something that will happen very soon.
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and his electability. The former president and ABC News correspondent Rachel Scott got into a heated exchange over Vice President Harris's race. The former president says Harris, for the longest time, identified as Indian until she needed to pander to black audiences. Here's that moment, and we'll get your response.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
And I'm just curious, Congressman, what you thought of this. And going back, remember, the VP was invited. She couldn't make it. She offered to do it virtually. That was, again, declined. It didn't ultimately work out for both of the candidates to be there, but it is a traditional fashion that candidates are invited. But nevertheless, if you really step back and you look, they're not talking about policies. What did you see in that line of questioning? What did you see in Trump's answers?
Well, I certainly understand the argument Trump's making. I don't know that I would have made that argument at that particular venue. But look, Donald Trump's taking his campaign to the American people. He's campaigning in places that no Republicans have ever campaigned before. He's trying to expand the base of the Republican Party, and I applaud him for that. What he says about Harris identifying as an Indian. If you go back to her initial races in California, the headlines in the newspapers all show that. I don't know what the real answer is or not, but I know that anytime Trump's going to question anything pertaining to race, then Kamala Harris is going to play the race card or the sex card. It's a very slippery slope, and that's why the Democrat machine conspired with the mainstream media to get rid of Joe Biden and replace him with Kamala Harris. They feel like Kamala Harris can set Trump up in some traps to try to motivate their minority bases and motivate the females that are undecided in this election. So Trump's got a very slippery slope, but I think the best thing that Donald Trump can do is stick to the issues. Kamala Harris was the border czar, and that's one of the biggest disasters in the history of America. Kamala Harris never even visited our Border Patrol agents. She never went to the real border issue, went to the real border hotspots. So she's failed in her policy. The energy policy's failed. The inflation has skyrocketed under Biden and Harris. And I think that's what Donald Trump needs to stick with.